Oh,
See,
are you portrait or I can't actually tell, but
it says I'm portrait.
oh yeah, landscape is better if you unlock it and then do landscape.
Leslie, you should know that I'm supposedly someone who works in health IT.
Hi, welcome to Sharp Conversations. Really excited to talk to you today, Leslie. My name is Subha Airan-Javia. I am a hospitalist at Penn, where I've been for the last 15 years, and an informatician dedicated to making tech that makes it easier for clinicians to do our job, which sometimes sounds like an oxymoron. That's unbelievable, but it's true. So that's been my focus. And now I'm CEO of Caroline, and really excited to just talk to people to learn about what's working and what's not working in um, initiatives around wellness and retention and burnout.
Hi, I'm Janae Sharp. We are discussing physician burnout today with Leslie Snavely, and I'm really excited that you could come today.
Thank you so much
And
for having me.
she lives in Park City, and I used to live in Utah. So,
Oh, I like that.
So tell us about yourself.
So first of all, I run professionally. I run sales and operations for CHG Healthcare. We are the largest physician staffing company in the country, and we are headquartered out of Salt Lake City, Utah. We primarily specialize in locum tenens staffing, although we do all types of staffing, physician permanent search, nurse recruiting, physical therapy, kind of you name it. But I've been living here, working here for about 12 years with CHG in Utah, and just glad to be here. I have a passion for this industry of healthcare. Love the concept that y'all are talking about. Just how do we make it easier and for everybody to make our healthcare system operate just a little smoother than it did yesterday. So hopefully we at CHG Healthcare can help, and I'm just excited to talk a little bit about it.
So Leslie, we've talked to a few people about locums for hospitalist jobs. Do you all staff
Mhm.
people to do locums for outpatient jobs as well?
We do. Yeah, we staff locum tenens, if you can imagine this, in every state in the country, every city in the nation. We staff it also internationally across every specialty in every setting. I mean, this is what used to be a much smaller industry. Just has become a way to fill in coverage care gaps that hospitals and or clinics, medical groups have, and we just try to help whenever we need it, right? So you'll find us kind of everywhere. We have over 70 specialties that we staff locum tenens in, kind of every specialty there is, and pretty much every setting there is.
So Leslie, you said CHG is the largest physician staffing company, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of things in the last decade that you've been there, but especially in the last couple of years. What are some, notable things that you've seen related to the pandemic, either between specialties, intraspecialty? Really curious for your perspective.
Oh, yeah, great question. We've been working and living at a time where we have a perpetual shortage of, clinicians for what's happening in the workforce, right? And we're in the aging population, and in general, there's more care needed to be given to more patients, right? And so for a lot of years, we've been living in this place where there's not enough clinicians in the right place at the right time with the right skills to do all the care that's needed. And so that has been a trend for a long time. And I think the pandemic, it just really accelerated that trend. We saw just a lot of acceleration of not having the right clinicians in the right spot at the right time.
Right.
Things like telehealth have been positive trend accelerations. Um, but also, it's adding more care to the system in a way where there isn't enough clinicians to get care met.
have you seen any trends like people that are in need or people that are at risk of leaving a position? Like, I feel like you probably have a good sense of that.
There's more burnout than there was before
Right.
COVID and the pandemic. That's probably the most obvious trend. You have a lot of individuals reconsidering, do they want to stay and practice. It's really prevalent in the nurse workforce.
Yeah.
I'd say another trend is in our eligible for retirement population as clinicians, people opting to retire instead of continuing to care. And all those things are putting more strain on the existing workforce, right? The other thing, I mean, in this, I get potentially we can help in this regard, but people have in the world worked from home, right? And have a lot of white collar workers have worked from home. And telehealth maybe is the way that's happened in clinical caregiving. But with that in mind, I think there's a lot more flexibility, and people desire flexibility in their work. And so I think we have to address that when it comes to clinical workforce. Like, how are we going to enable flexibility for doctors and nurses when maybe they haven't had it in the past, right? And when the rest of the world is working from home in white collar jobs, my neighbor who's a doctor wants to do so too. And so we have to figure out different and unique ways to provide care, I think, with that in mind.
Have you been able to do that? Because I've heard a lot about that. Like, we've heard about nurses, like whole groups of nurses at hospitals sometimes just leaving.
Yeah.
And then the people who are left over, they're like, oh, there aren't really enough of us.
Well, at the core of what we do is we bring in temporary workers. So
Right.
we are probably like at the leading edge of bringing in folks when that happens, when a health system or hospital faces that crisis. We work to try to help. So what we have seen a lot more of it than prior. I'd say the probably more sustained thing that will happen though is we have been able to do a large amount of telestaffing. We've been providing health systems with a psychiatrist who can do clinical appointments this way over video.
That's very exciting.
So those are some trends I think that will sustain. The other piece I would tell you is like how you manage workflow. So if a doctor is working like a psychiatrist from home in another state, there's a lot of complex workflow in that. They need a license, they need to be privileged, their health records need to flow.
Yeah, I wondered about that because licensing is an issue.
Yeah, we do that, right? So we do secure licenses in all 50 states for clinicians. So we see a lot of people want that from us, right, in this regard. But it makes some healthcare systems job complex. They have to navigate all of that.
Yeah, as an employer now with people in many different states, I'm appreciating that for the first time. It's definitely challenging. I hear you saying that there's at least more talk now about wellness and appreciation, that we need to think about clinicians. Are you actually seeing any action?
It's a hard problem to solve. And so I appreciate if you're leading that within a whatever health system, it's hard to solve. And and so I think that's why the talk versus action. And sometimes I see actions that are super well intended. We've even had some of our clients talk to us about having wellness programs in rooms. Well, if the person can't get off shift, I mean, that's not going to go a long way, right? So I think we're learning our way through this to say what's truly impactful versus what may be more talk and window dressing on the challenge. What we do, and I would speak about this more in our nursing business. So when we have nurses that work in travel nursing for us, we're moving them around the country to assignment. There are employees with our benefits, and we're providing a good amount of mental health and taking care of yourself benefits, right? You have to think that someone needs you to bring them the options and help them navigate through. That's the same as our employees, whether I'm a sales recruiter or a nurse, right?
Yeah.
Online access to mental health care is super important. And that's just one example, but stuff like that is more impactful, I think, than some of the window dressing things I've seen, unfortunately.
Have you seen any things that have helped with retention?
The number one thing I see that helps is honestly getting the right amount of staff.
Yeah.
Like, it's so obvious, but it's not obvious when that's hard to do. And so I was spending some time with a large physician enterprise executive a number of months ago, talking to them about their cardiology practices. And, finding a cardiologist is hard to do. And so, getting ahead of future staff planning, using temporary staffing to help where we can. We're not the long-term solution, but you have to be proactively planning ahead. And I think it just honestly, that alone takes a lot of work. So really thinking about your workforce as your most valuable asset, right? And how you bring enough talent in to make sure you don't lose those who are overworking today.
So I'm always curious when I hear about temporary staffing, if people kind of dread when they say, oh, I'm going to a place that has this EHR, I'm going to a place that has that EHR. It's going to be really hard for these couple months.
I definitely think technology can be a barrier for, to your point, kind of ease. Most of the physicians who have chosen to do a lot of locum tenens or temporary staffing, they've crossed this barrier in their mind of flexibility, right? So they got into doing temp staffing because they want more flexibility and autonomy in their work life. Because of that, they approach going into a new facility with a new HR, with a new set of whatever. They approach it with a more open mind. Part of that too is also because they can close the assignment and it's not a lifetime commitment, right?
Right. They're like, this isn't forever.
Yeah.
There's an ending in
If
sight.
they hate it, they can move
Yeah,
on.
they do. They serve their 30-day assignment and they've gotten to live in a new cool state and seen a different setting, met new peers that are really valuable and who they learn from. Anyway, so I just think maybe our audience is a little more kind of open to change. And honestly, it's what makes our practice attractive for physicians because there isn't always a lot of ways where they can see taking more control, right, of their work life.
Right.
And locum
Having
tenens is,
agency over their own life.
we have 3 separate brands and each has a little different style and how they do the work. And they are known for something different. We have a global medical staffing brand who staffs New Zealand. And,
Wow.
That's
if that's,
awesome.
again, what you want to have a 1-year assignment in New Zealand, we'll go help you figure it out, right? And again, you think about controlling your destiny as a clinician. And sometimes burnout is about taking control back.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
I have a question. How does that work for people who are going to have families or people who have children? I know during the pandemic, childcare was like a huge issue for physicians, for nurses, for clinicians. Are they able to do something like locum tenens work, or is it kind of closed?
First of all, I used to have this myth feeling that like this was only for like new grads who wanted to try things out or like semi-retired who wanted to like wind down. It's interestingly not. We have every decade's worth of physicians working with us. It looks a little bit different. So if you've got 2 young kids, like I'll do a business trip last week and I was gone for 4 days. We can do a 4-day assignment. Yeah, it doesn't have to be go in for 6 months. You do have to have the flexibility often to travel back and forth. So it does. Some people may not be for it. If they don't want to do that, it's maybe not for them. Again, all of this though, I think if you go back to the higher level question of burnout, a lot of it is about taking control back, right? And finding your path to that. And so all these things just give you options and it may not be right for everybody, but some people may want to get away once a month for a week, I did when my kids were little. I love my children, by the way.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything there.
Do you ever staff couples together or people who want to kind of go places together?
We do, yeah. It takes a little bit longer, sometimes to pull that off, just simply because you're trying to find the match. But some of our physical therapies, our Comp Health brand and division, staffs physical therapy, OT, PT, speech language pathology, et cetera, like all of those therapy verticals. And those are oftentimes like 90-day type assignments. And so you'll find couples who are traveling therapists together and they want to go experience Montana and they'll take a joint assignment as a couple and go to Montana somewhere in Butte, Montana. And they can, do different work, but run 2 different jobs and then they get the adventure. So part of what we do is got an adventure element to it as well. See the world in different places.
And I wonder if that helps some of the just add wellness, right? So you can go to some place you're interested in going to, enjoy being there, and then earn money while you're there. And to your point, there's an ending, right? So it's kind of like, oh, I can do anything for 3 weeks, or I can do anything for 4 weeks.
Well, and especially, this, but like, especially physicians that have in their life, by the time you're actually practicing, you've put up with a lot. So you do have a high tolerance for pain, right? And so not that an assignment with us is pain. I don't mean that, but you have this ability to like, go try and you can,
yes,
you can get through anything if need be, right?
Yeah. I would say that we're a fairly resilient workforce, which is why when people say we need resiliency training, makes me a little bit annoyed.
Is that really what would bring more wellness or more like burnout relief? No, I mean, that's probably not it. Now, I'm sure there are other things that would be more impactful. Well, I'm curious, like, as you work with them, talk to other doctors, are their employers getting their perspective on burnout? So that's that listening thing.
I think there's a lot of places that are hiring wellness officers and doing things that make it seem like they care, but these positions don't have budget. They don't have, governance structures that help them enact change. So it feels like, um, it just feels like not enough yet, but I'm hoping that that will change. And people will realize that they need to be able to do more than, say, spend an extra hour at work doing yoga.
So we get a lot of asks about what would you recommend us doing?
Oh, interesting.
We always say kind of two things are most important, right? Staff right. And I know that people are then potentially go, well, you're a staffing agency. Of course you're going to say it. That's not why we're saying it. We can tell you when our company, when we are understaffed, we have burned out our people and then often, or they can leave, right? And so it's not just all that. And then the second thing is listen, because it's the worst thing to have someone tell you an answer for your wellness and you're like, you have no idea what you're talking
Without
about, right?
asking
Without
you.
asking you, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds easier said than done, but we try to lead sessions with our clients on it.
Yeah. Listening is hard. I have children. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't want to hear it. Well, thanks for your perspective and thanks for that, the insights about staffing, because I think that's something everyone wonders about. And we get questions about it all the time.
Oh, well, thank you. It's nice talking to both of you ladies.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. This has been great.
I'm going to put this in here because we had this scheduled 2 weeks ago and I was not well. I had a sore throat and you guys were so nice to reschedule. So, hey, you're taking my wellness into account. So thank you for that.
We care about you.
I care.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you both.